Good evening, everyone. How are you today? So happy to have you with us here at Live, Love, and Mary Wiser. I thank you always for taking your time to spend with us on Tuesday evenings. As you know, season 2 is coming quickly to an end. Can't believe that we are on episode 10. So our final episode will be August 15th. So don't miss them, but you can always go back and watch all the ones you've missed, all 22 that have already happened. And we would love for you to do that. Of course, we'd love for you to subscribe, like, share, comment, all of those things that get the algorithm moving and help more people to see us. As you know, we are shooting for impacting 10,000 women this year. And of course, it's hard to track that, but I did look at our numbers today. We had over 8,000 views of our program since we started just this year. And so I'm excited about that. I am Lorraine Edwards, co-founder of A Single Mission business ministry that is created to help women, single women, embrace their singleness, walk in purpose, and prepare for the partner they desire. And we are happy to have you here with us. Our topic today is personal investment, your path to living your best life. And I'm going to introduce our guest shortly, but you know what time it is. It's time for our check-in. What investment have you made in yourself this year that has improved your well-being? Let's edit that right now. That's the beauty of live and StreamYard, actually. Let me shout out to StreamYard. I love StreamYard. If you can actually do recordings and webinars or whatever as well, but love StreamYard. What investment have you made in yourself this year that has improved your well-being? Hit us up in the comments so we can see what you have going on. Don't be shy. We need you to participate in the conversation. Dr. J, before I get you to do a whole formal introduction of yourself, tell me one thing you've done this week to live, love, and or marry wiser. Oh, look at that. We got Ebony Wilkins started her business, stressful but rewarding. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Lorraine,
You're
for having me on. One thing this week, I've had the last couple of months to slow down. That's a whole nother story as to why I slowed down. But when you slow down, you become aware of so many things that you were not necessarily aware of when you're moving, when you're the hamster on the wheel. And this week, because I am used to multitasking, I learned how to multitask as an elementary teacher. Shout out to all the elementary teachers out there. If you are one, and you don't have to be elementary teacher, just a teacher, period. Like you learn how to do 50 things at one time. Not necessarily a good thing, but it kind of works in different contexts. But because I had the last couple of months to kind of slow down, I became aware of kind of stress triggers. Okay. So why am I saying all that? This week, I tipped to the edge. There was a situation that came up and I was tipping to the edge of, well, I'm just gonna, and then I just stopped and I was just like, I'm not just gonna.
Okay.
We're not doing that. We're going to finish what we're doing today. And if we have time tomorrow, we'll jump, we'll fit it in. But I was so proud of myself because I was just like, no, I'm not about to listen, Lorraine. I am at a point where I don't want to interrupt this new level of peace that I've discovered. And so now it's like I've got this filter now. And so I saw that filter at work, like, biggest day this week. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that you said that because today I had to work separately than what my normal like business is.
Yeah.
And I had to get up at something like before 5 to get there at 6, and we were doing all this stuff. And I got home about 2, and normally I would just like jump on, like, get on the computer and start working on this and start working on that. And I was tired. And you know what? I was just like, I'm gonna take a nap. And,
Hello.
and I did. And I'm not a big napper, but I needed that. I slept for probably an hour. And
Yes.
yes. And then I
Yes.
said, I'm actually not going to work for the rest of the day because I'm going to just decide I'm going to just chill because I
I
knew I
love
had to come do this and I get to come
Yeah.
do this. But I was just like, I'm just going to relax because getting myself all hyped up, like nothing is going to literally happen if I don't work or if I
Right.
do work, nothing's going to change. So I'm just going to not work. And
Hello.
I really decided to do things a little bit differently. I decided that today. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to work on this one thing and then I'm going to work on something else another day
Love
because
it.
it's just like God is really in control. And so me trying to run and run and run and run and make it happen and make it happen, as an entrepreneur, this, like we
Yes.
feel like we have to make it happen.
Yes.
I haven't made anything happen. Like everything I've done has not happened, So I'm just like, okay, God
Yeah.
put me here. He has a plan. So let me just slow down and try to just walk in that. We need to introduce you because we kind of already dipped into the conversation,
I
which
love it.
we do. The one thing I want to say, and I'm going to have Jennifer introduce herself and just tell a little bit about herself. But what I have to tell you all is that you all know the shirt, the merch, the merch, the merch. Now, Renee designed the logo, not the logo, but the shirt. But Jennifer is the one that makes the shirts. And so I know there's some with Susan's on here, and I know Susan got some shirts, and I'm sure she's enjoying them. And so I'm just so excited. When I first started this, as far as the retreat and making shirts, and Renee was designing, and she's like, well, my cousin actually makes t-shirts. I'm just like, okay, what are the odds of that? But I'm like, and
Yeah.
we had talked, we just sent an email, hey, like, can we talk? I'm telling you all, we got on the phone and talked like we had known each other for 5 years.
Absolutely.
It was like no real hello or anything. We just like dived in the conversation, and it probably lasted over an hour. We were talking about our life. We were talking about our singleness. We were talking about everything but the shirts in that first conversation. And so just her presence has been a blessing to me. So I wanted her to be a blessing to you. Jennifer, see me next. Look at you, Jennifer.
Yes. Yes.
You got
Awesome.
potential customers already on here.
Yes. And Susan loves her shirts.
And Ebony is going to be calling you about making shirts for her too.
Awesome.
So introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about who Dr. J is.
Yes. Well, my name is Jennifer Patterson. I hail from the Southeast, the great city of Huntsville, Alabama, which is it's crazy. I'm from Huntsville, and I've watched this city just grow and explode like over the years. I'm really enjoying. Like I feel like I'm standing, like I'm sitting on the sidelines, just watching, my city change. But I am an educator. I'm a career educator. I'm a reading specialist. I love ministry. I love the Bible. I love reading the Bible, studying with other people. I love shopping, traveling. I'm a big reader. I love a good story, like an amazing plot, right? So right now I'm a big fan of Korean drama, Chinese drama. Like it's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Marvel. So I've got these like Marvel Lego projects that I do. And yeah, I love the outdoors. I just love a great conversation. Lorraine is right. Like it was so crazy. I had just come from a long meeting with someone, and then I called you And it was just like, it was so refreshing. So I love communicating. I love reading, and I love helping children fill in those gaps that have reading interferences.
Mhm.
I know I'm saying love a lot, but I'm saying that because I'm expressing the things that bring me joy, the
Yeah.
things that I pour myself into, that things that I'm excited about, that if nobody paid me, I'd be a part of.
Oh,
So yeah.
I love that. I love that. And what is the name
Yeah.
of your business? Where
Yes. So I have my small business is my Bookworm Project Educational Services. I provide consultation services, assessment services in the area of reading for any age, actually. But I mostly deal with parents whose children are in school, traditional school, non-traditional school. I help give them resources, tips, tricks, hacks, those kinds of things. I did have a clientele. I was tutoring and teaching private tutoring at one point. Almost got burned out in the middle of the pandemic, and so I let that part of the business go. I'm in a different business phase, and
Mhm.
it's such a learning curve. So along the way, I picked up a new skill, and that was vinyl printing, sublimation printing, getting ready to learn how to use an embroidery machine. So it allows me to be creative, and it allows me
Mhm.
an outlet, from the normal routines of the day and of the business. So yeah,
That's that's so cool. I was just
yeah,
listening to a sermon by Pastor Myron Edmonds, and he was talking about Joseph when Joseph
yeah.
was in Potiphar's house and then in prison, and then he was prime minister. And he said one lesson that we can learn from Joseph is that we need to be developing
Mm,
wherever we are. And
that part.
it was clear that Joseph was learning and growing and taking in knowledge. And so when
Yeah,
Potiphar was like, come, I need this dream, and he tells them the interpretation, but then he also gives them a solution. And he was saying that even when you feel like you're in a prison of like you're stuck or you're not progressing, you're not moving forward, things aren't going, that there's always something that you can be learning, because you never know what you're going to learn that God is going to use when he gets you to wherever prime minister in your life. And so it just
absolutely.
reminds me what you're like, I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this. And it's just like taking in all of these opportunities and knowledge
Yeah,
and learning and growing and just becoming a fuller, more holistically healthy person. And that means you have the opportunity to meet different people, because you met me because you learned the vinyl thing, and and
yeah,
Ebony, and then and because of that now you're here, and who knows who needs reading services or whatever.
yeah.
So all of that helps us to like grow.
Yes,
So you're
yes,
here, and usually, like I'm doing the program, I pick the topics, I discuss them with Ebony or Renee, and we kind of go. But I asked you to be on here even several weeks ago, and I said, and you were just like, I want to talk about this personal investment. I didn't even have to, we didn't have to brainstorm. You were just like, this is what I want to talk about. And I was just like, okay, cool. Then I don't have to come up with a topic. So,
yeah,
Dr. J, what is personal investment and why does that matter to you so much?
yeah. That's an excellent question. I want to start with why it matters, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It matters. First of all, it's personal. It's personal. It matters because it's all about the value that I place on myself.
Mm. Okay. Say more about that. Can't
You
wait
know,
to hear.
right. It's all about the value that I'm able to see, the image bearer that God has created. Right, I'm an image bearer. I am created to look like Him, to act like Him. The value that I place on myself, and that value that drives my unique contribution to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That brings purpose to my existence.
Mm-hmm.
That that allows me to narrow that becomes a filter, honestly. So if when I'm walking in purpose, because I see my value and I understand the type of contribution that I am created to make to the world, yeah, that allows me to not to narrow out people,
Mm-hmm.
places, situations, that allows me to walk with more of a focus. Now, have I always thought that? No, absolutely not. And I say it's personal because I did not always see my value.
Okay.
I
We can all relate.
Yeah, I leaned on what I saw around me. And it's funny because today's youth, young adults, are inundated with social media, right? We weren't inundated with social media growing up.
Mm-hmm. That wasn't
It
even.
was right. It was she's prettiest. She's got this. He's
Mm-hmm.
got that. It was that comparison game, and so I grew up comparing myself instead of um, being able to see, who I was. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went through just a particular season of growth. I had started teaching. I was in the first couple of years of my teaching career in my 20s. And I'll never forget. I never forget. And I included this in my book, but my friend and I were out shopping. It was probably it was January when the stores start to put all their winter stuff on sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I decided to start trying on some some different styles than what I normally wore. And y'all, when I put on something that I thought was different, that I thought, yeah, let me see how this looks. When I stood in that mirror, it was like God was talking to me in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And God said to me, "Do you see what I see? Man, you could have knocked me down with a feather. Do you see what I see? I need you to see what I see." And it was
Mm-hmm.
from that moment that I had another layer of awareness. And so it was just the tip of the iceberg, but it gave me enough that I started to chase it. And so personal investment, the value that you place on yourself that drives you to figure out, to discover, to explore your unique contribution to the world. And it involves, I mean, it's self-care, it's how I'm spending my time, it's
Mm-hmm.
what I find joy in, it's all of that wrapped up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what my motivation was. And I've never stopped. I've just never stopped, because once you open that door, it's like
Mm-hmm.
Alice in Wonderland. Like you just keep going, because it's just like, oh, what is that? Whoa, what is, you just keep going. And but the discoveries that you make about yourself, but then you realize, this was here all the time. I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
see it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, sorry, I get excited.
No, please, we like excitement. Okay, I love that. Everything that you said there. So I want to break that down though more.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, there are women listening, there are men listening, mostly women watch. And for women,
Yeah.
even if you're not married, like forget the whole married, because Ebony's on here, she's the married one, and she's got children and a husband and work and a business, and the house needs to be clean and the laundry needs to be done and all this stuff. And that's really true of most wives that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And for even women
Yep.
who aren't, there's then you have to do everything because it's just you. Where do you find the time? How do you do this thing of personal investment and self-discovery? And you mentioned self-care. Like for you, how did you kind of get, because you talked about being on the hamster wheel before.
Yeah.
How did you get to that when you were on the hamster wheel? I know you're moving from that, you're away from that now, but you were on it for a long time, but you were
Mm-hmm.
still doing this. How did you do that?
Yeah, so my hamster wheel, unfortunately, still was a lot of what I was able to do, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
It was just too much. It was
Mhm.
just too much of everything, right? So it was progressive, right? I had to, as I was discovering more of what I loved and what I wanted to do, I just found space for that.
Mhm.
Um, Whether or not it was, I'm taking this time off, period, point blank. I'll see y'all when I get back.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Book that trip, and everybody's life and priorities looks different. And single people are just as busy as
Yeah.
married people,
Yeah.
right? And
Uh-huh.
that's a whole nother conversation. But it depends on the season that you're in. And it depends on the type of investment that you're willing to make. Okay, so let's think about and this is funny, Lorraine, because we talked about this. This is not my purview, but investment, when we think about investment, a lot of times we think about money, right? We think about the
Yeah.
stock market. We think right?
I cannot stand.
So some people are only able to invest a certain amount, right? But you
Okay.
invest that and you give it the opportunity to grow. You're still making an investment
Mhm.
in your sphere of influence, in what you got going on, whereas other people are able to make a larger
Mhm.
investment, or spread it across, have a larger portfolio, or what have you. But I think as you're making the discovery, there's a counterbalance. Someone got me off of saying, no, you'll never balance life, but counterbalance.
Mhm.
We can talk about that.
Mhm.
So when I start asking myself questions, well, what am I doing for myself? Well, what are you doing for yourself? Even when we're on the plane, like, what do they tell you? Put the mask on yourself
Yes. Yes.
before
Right.
you try to help someone else. So when we reverse engineer it, if I am constantly pouring out and giving everybody else and everything else every bit of me, then I'm not going to find that.
Mhm.
But you can't pour from an empty cup. So when we think about it from that perspective, we have to pull back. You have to kind of draw back. You got to look at the big picture of your life, your day, your week, your month. Look at these things that you're discovering. Well, I want to get my nails done. I want to go get a facial.
Mhm.
You know, I want to go and kick throw the ball around on the court. We have to figure out what's going to be my reasonable investment, because once you make that deposit, then it can grow. You give it an opportunity to grow. But we have to examine, I would say, we have to examine what we're doing right now, because honestly, there's some things that we can kick out. There's some things that we can modify. There's some things that we can move around in
Mhm.
order to make that happen. And at the end of the day, remember, you're valuable.
Right.
You're valuable. You matter.
Mhm.
This is important. Let's figure it out. And so that's how I did it. I just made it a priority. I
Mhm.
would push something out. Listen, what's urgent and what's important? What are the things that we are making urgent versus important? If it's important, yes, it needs to be done eventually or in this time frame. But we making stuff urgent. Everything's urgent. So I think we have to evaluate what we're doing and what we are considering as priorities, and especially what we're considering as urgent. And so shift Tetris, play a little Tetris. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm dating myself. But start shifting some things around, because I'm telling you, you can do it. You can make it happen.
Yeah.
You can make it happen.
I totally agree with that. And within the context of just my life and my roles that I play, they I know that if I decide, so a few weeks ago, I've been in this health challenge at church, and one of the
Hmm.
facilitators or whatever, and we were teaching the 10 principles of health, and one of them is just getting good sleep. And I had started doing that a while ago. I was like, I'm going to go to bed by 9 or 9:30. And I did that for a while. And then I allowed other things. It wasn't always work. Sometimes it was work, but other things to kind of
Yeah.
push that
Yeah.
aside. But I know that when I do that, I feel fantastic. And I mean, it's better for my health, but I feel
Yes.
better. I mean, I
Yeah.
wake up way earlier, which that's not always fun because you just kind of like to sleep or some of the time. But
Right.
this last week, Wednesday, I went to bed before 10 o'clock. I woke up at 3 o'clock on Thursday morning. And normally I would just kind of stay and just kind of, try to go back to sleep, which that's not really useful sleep. It's just fun sleep, I guess. But but I decided to like go ahead and have my devotion, and then
Yeah.
I was like, oh well, so I got up and I decided to clean my room, and then I cleaned the bathroom, and then I baked some sweet potatoes so that I could have lunch and I was like doing all this stuff, and it wasn't
All
even
that stuff. Right.
so much. And I just felt really good about that. But I think that when you say how you put it, as far as, oh, I'm valuable, that means that how I take care of my body, how I take care of my mind, how I take care of my spirit, how I
Yeah.
take care of my finances, how I take care of my emotions, how I
Yes.
take care of me, is about living wiser, loving yourself wiser. And
Yes.
and so then it changes what you decide to do. Because when you value something, let's say, even if we're talking about money, let's say
Yes.
you're like, well, I really value having a nice savings account, and I don't value as much just spending money just to spend it. Then when it comes to making a decision, no matter what the outside voices are saying, your friends may be like, oh, buy that, or you're just like, that's nice, but I value this, so I'm going to do this. And I think that's true with all of what we do. And the problem is, I think discipline is important, but I think discipline has to be married to value, because you're not going to discipline to do something for yourself if you don't really value that thing.
Yes. 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 I discipline and discipline and value are married. And I think self-care is non-negotiable. It's not negotiable.
Okay.
It's not. I love how you talked about how you felt, because that's a big factor in how we are motivated to, try harder, how we're motivated to explore and go deeper when we see results.
Right. And they don't take weeks or months.
No,
They're immediate.
they're immediate. And so I think for some of us who may be on the hamster wheel, who may be just inundated with life responsibilities, which we all are, if you give yourself the opportunity to see results, just make a little deposit. That's going to motivate you to be, someone said, be intentional. Susan said, be intentional. It's going to motivate you to be intentional.
Yes.
And increase that and make room for that part right there. Making room. You have to make room for yourself. And let me say this, because I know there's a lot of rhetoric out there, especially in social media. You come first, all of that. And some of it is toxic, y'all. Some of it is toxic because it has a way of isolating yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. No. We're not talking about that
Right.
one-sided, forget everybody. No. It's both and, y'all.
Yes.
There's room for both. There's
Yes.
room to be engaged with people and to be engaged with our jobs and our families and our kids and our husbands and whatever else. But there has to be room for me to replenish, to be renewed, to reinvent,
to be at peace, to chill.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So that you can, this is what we do. We work so we can rest, but it really should be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Rest.
Yes.
When you rest well,
Yes.
you work well and do everything else well, because
Right.
that should come first, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, totally agree. Because one of the things that I talk a lot about is self-love, but from the perspective of how the Bible teaches it. Thou
Yes.
shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And so we jump over ourselves and it's like, well, we got to do all these things for our neighbor. And then we leave ourselves out of the picture. But then
Right.
you become resentful, you become exhausted, you become burnt out, and all of those things. And Jesus is like, no, that's not that is toxic. I didn't tell you to do that. I specifically
Yeah.
said, love your neighbor as yourself. And so I remember I had someone coming to visit, and I was like cleaning the bathroom, like, scrubbing all that and doing, because you want the bathroom to be clean. And in the middle of that, I think I was preparing for a presentation that I was going to do in a couple of weeks. And in the middle of that, I guess the Holy Spirit was just like, now, how come you don't do this for yourself? Like, why is it okay for that to be kind of halfway for yourself, but now you go through all of this to clean for somebody else? Love your neighbor as yourself, even in them simple things that we will go out of our way to do. And I totally believe in serving and helping people. I enjoy that. But when you leave yourself out of that picture, then you do become resentful and burnt out. And I think as Christians, we are more susceptible to that kind of toxic self-love or whatever, or not
We
love.
are. Yes.
We're just kind of like, oh, but Jesus said we're supposed to, and God in the Bible, and it's just like, no, come on, let's read it all the way,
Yes.
all the
Yes.
way, and let's understand
Yeah.
it. And I think that another thing that you said that I think is so important is that investment. Like, yeah, some people can make a $5 investment, and some people can make a $5,000 investment in finances, but that might be true about your time too. You might just need to you may literally be only able to take a 5-minute break at the end of every hour, just to breathe, just to relax, just to play blocks on your phone. That's just my thing. But I'm like, and I got up to 6,000. So I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna do it. But it relaxes my mind.
Yes.
But it's like, even if you take a 10-minute walk outside, just get some sunshine, just feel like nature and then go back and do, like, if you can start there, then it can grow. Because I do agree with when you start to do it and you start to feel those results and you feel that impact, then then you're like, okay, now I need some more of that.
Exactly.
But then the other thing I wanted to mention, and tell me what you think about this, is that when you get to the place where you think like this, and we hope that it is at the end of this program. If you don't think that now, we hope that by the end of this program, you think, I'm valuable enough for that. But you haven't been doing that. People in your life, not everybody in your life is going to be gung-ho for you doing that, because it's going to mean taking away some of your time from them, or taking away from what they want you to do versus what you want. And you have to be able to navigate that in a healthy way, but learning to say no, or wait, or not today, are really words that are simple to say, but not always simple to embrace.
Yes. That reminds me of the voices, the talking heads, the expectations, in fact, of the people we love, of society, in terms of what you should be doing,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And what we have taken on, and the voice in our own head that says what I should be doing, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
um, this is what my life should look like. This is what
Hey.
I should have. This is where
Mhm.
I should be.
Mm. Come on,
This
come
is
on, come on, come
this
on,
is
come on,
these
come on.
these are the milestones that I should have achieved by now.
You're knocking on my door right now. Stop, stop, stop. Nobody told you to be all up in my business, kid. Now that's not why I invited you on here to be all up in my stuff. Go
You
on, go
know, the
on.
shoulds, but the should, and in a counseling session, the therapist told me, don't try not to. She probably said, don't use it, but I'm gonna be nice. She told me to, really look at using should, because should brings on an unnecessary pressure.
Mm-hmm.
We put an unnecessary pressure on ourselves. And
Right.
so, as I am wanting, as I am changing, as I am growing, as I am discovering things that bring me joy and the things that are working for me now and that don't sit well with other people,
Mm-hmm.
or that is a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
I heard somewhere that sometimes you have to reposition people.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You have to reposition them, and it's not again, it's not from a standpoint of um you know they're diabolical, or
Yeah, yeah,
they're evil. It's not that. It's when you grow, y- you have to have room.
yeah, yeah.
You have to there's when you grow, there's new things happening. There's
Mm-hmm.
new thoughts, there's new mindsets, there's new ideas, there's new understanding, and things naturally have to shift. And so we have to find ways to, in love, with some of our relationships, with some, we some of them we have to explain, we have to be very explicit. And others, you have to reposition them. You have to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You have to just, be upfront about, hey, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I need. And unfortunately, sometimes we are in situations where people have taken advantage of us,
Mm-hmm.
not caring for ourselves,
Right.
because I'm giving you everything that I have. So this runs the gamut, and some some of us will need assistance and coaching and guidance to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that you can get there. Just know that you can get there. Incremental steps. It's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. But yeah, I think the expectations, that's sometimes that's a difficult, I'm gonna be honest, it's a difficult thing to shake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially with people that you're close to, and let's just say everybody's not gonna understand.
They aren't. They aren't. They aren't. And I heard someone say, and I actually said this in one, that stop shitting all over yourself. Um
Absolutely.
because you do block wherever you are right now. And as people of faith, as Christians, then we have to believe that God doesn't tell us what to do, but if we are in his will, if we are choosing his path, that even when we might not do the right thing all the time, he's still directing us. So if you really should have been, then you would have been. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There is nothing in me that can literally stop God's will. If I should have been somewhere other than where I am,
Yes.
he could be like, okay, she doing that, let me do this so that I can get her where she should be in my mind. But it's like sometimes where we should be is where we don't want to be.
That part.
Because it's not comfortable. Like I'm not comfortable where I am right now. And you all, who heard the testimony, that, but it's still the place that I am. And God is like, I need you to talk about it, because there are a lot of people who aren't where they think they should be, but they are where I want them to be, because I see bigger than you see, And so when you are complaining about not being where you think you should be, you're really saying, God, you're messing up. You don't know what you're doing. This blueprint is just junk. Like, let me design it, because you don't know what you're doing. And he's just like, okay, all right, go ahead. Yeah. Just try that one day and see how that work out. But I'm like,
yeah. And go ahead. Sorry.
No, go.
You're making me think of this. Personal investment means growing where you're planted. So as I'm listening to you, and I'm that's no stranger to me, man. I should be by this age. I should have been by this time. What's going on? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the power of personal investment. Okay. This is the big boom, right? When you understand your value, understand that you have a unique contribution to make to the world, understand that there are things out here that bring you joy. That's how we are designed. That's how we are created. God is a God of aesthetics. Mm-hmm. He loves beautiful things that bring him joy. We're made like God. We're created like God. So it's almost like sometimes we can feel guilty for taking that time for ourselves, or for indulging in that little game, for that 5 minutes, or I had to stop binging K-drama. Thank you, Jesus. Because they're so addictive. I had to pull back. But the power of personal investments. The power of personal investment is when you find yourself in a spot where you feel like let me tell you what silence is that. Stopping, looking around, taking in your environment. And when you understand your value, your contribution, and what brings you joy, then that's what you automatically start looking for. Mm-hmm. Where you are. Mm-hmm. That begins to refocus from the should to, oh, let me check that out. Mm-hmm. Oh, I just met this person who is in business like me, and they gave me some. That's what allows you to start to plug in to the stuff that you didn't realize was there. That's actually helping you build up, and it's bringing color and life and texture, right. And then you look up, and honey, you're not even worried about a whole bunch of stuff. You're not even worried about stuff that you were worried about. You're not spending time thinking about stuff that you were spending time thinking about. And listen, again, I'm not that person. I don't deal in extremes. So these God-given desires for relationship and marriage are legit.
Yeah, they are.
But when you start to invest personally, you see a balance coming, a counterbalance coming to play. Let me tell you, I'm telling you, look up and you're like, you over there in the Cayman Islands, right? On the beach. And you look up and you're just like, I really hadn't thought about that in a while. It's something that I still desire, but it ain't consuming me, because I am finding my joy. I'm finding the things that I love to be engaged in, and it's bringing that counterbalance. Yeah, it's a process, but you get there. You get there.
No, it is a process, and I love that you brought it to that, because most of the people that watch are women, they're single women, and so both of us are. And so I'm just like, I'm not speaking from some place, some high and mighty place. I've been married forever. And I'm just like, oh, you just need to just find your purpose and just find joy and all of that.
Right.
No, I'm not from that place. I'm like right where you are. Like I desire that, but
Yeah.
I'm not consumed with it. And it took a long time to
Yes.
get there. I mean,
Yes.
I was 40 years old when the meltdown came, and then I was just like, okay, God, for real, like I'm angry at you.
Real
But then
talk.
he showed me something different. And then it's like he catapulted me into my purpose. This is why I'm here today and everything that has come before that. And so I do believe that you can, oh, why am I, anyway, I do believe that you can love your life even when you don't have a love in your life.
Yes. That
And
part.
not like in this generic spiritual
No.
over spiritualized kind of way.
No.
Like God intends for us. He created us as individuals. And even if you're married, someone's like, even if you're married, you're an individual. And if you don't have what you're talking about, if you don't personally invest, if you're not growing and learning and self-care and all of those things, you're going to be miserable as a married person too. But then you're going to have to deal with somebody else who probably is as miserable, because people who have that tend to attract people who have that. When you have that kind of joy and peace and you're not consumed with being in a relationship, you don't hang out with people who are just like trifling and trying to manipulate you. Like, I don't got time for that because I love my life. I'm not trying to mess with you. It's like, so you need to step. But so you attract what you are. And so when we
Yes.
become that and we are like intentional because we know that God has that for us, there is no way, as you can see, I get really passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
There is no way that the God that we serve and love intends that only married people get to have joy and fulfillment and peace and have a thriving life. That does not make sense. 60% of our church are single people. 60%. So when you start thinking, and our church is bad for this. We don't have a good singles ministry, and we glorify marriage in a sense that, to me, unbiblical, and we make people feel like they are less than. But you're saying, no. We're saying you're not. And if they're not going to invest in you, your Heavenly Father has, but now you got to invest in you.
Right. Yes. I just think that it widens, we're talking about loving your neighbors, you love yourself. We're talking about love. This widens this, in my opinion, this perspective of personal investment widens my understanding of love.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes more holistic. It allows me, because like you said, when you start to grow and develop in this space, you begin to attract individuals who are also running this type of race.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Quality. So in my estimation, it allows me to become, again, more holistic. It widens my lens. And so it allows me to become that person. I'm saying that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
No shade, but a lot of times we are working on how to become a good mate, a good spouse, instead of working on how to be that person, period, across the board.
Yeah.
In my coworker relationships, in my family relationships, in my friendships, in my dating relationships, that consistent whole,
right,
healed, whole person, right? So that translates into romantic relationships. It translates across, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You begin to foster and attract partnerships that are quality and that are high level.
Yes.
Right? Because you chose to stop, to slow down, to develop yourself in a way that sets you apart, sets you apart, period.
No, absolutely.
Period. Yes.
and
Yes.
and not to exclude the married people, because if you
Yeah.
aren't there, you can be there. And in fact, you
Yes.
need to be there, because that's what's going to improve. If you have a good marriage, it'll get better. If you don't have a good marriage, it can, even with you like saying, you know what,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this work on myself. I can't force
Yes.
anybody to do whatever, and I'm not, whatever. But if I can do it on myself, so I can have that wholeness, that fullness of joy. That it doesn't mean you're happy all the time.
Right.
Let's disavow ourselves of that notion. We're not saying that, because y'all know, sister girl had some struggles this year, but it doesn't mean that. But it means that you get back up, and then you go and you do the thing, and you have that peace, you have that joy, then you move forward, and you're not consumed with anybody else and their walk and their interest in you and their whatever. You just
Yeah.
live. You live fully into what God has called you to.
That part.
Because I say a lot, when he said, I know the plans I have for you, he meant single people too. He didn't mean married people. He meant single people, individuals. I know the
Individuals.
plans I have for you. And when you know the plans, and when God shares, he don't tell you the plans. Let's just be honest. He don't he don't tell you the
Not at
plans.
all.
He just gives you like one little outlet. Okay, put the outlet right there. And then you be like, but what about the rest of the where? I mean, what are the lights and all? You like, no, I'm not gonna tell you that. But I believe it's a blueprint. It's not just a sketch on a napkin. And so when he's building that, and he's like, that's for you, because then when you are working and doing and following and growing in the way that he wants, and then maybe that person over there, they're also like, God, I want the blueprint.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, those two houses go together. Like, y'all put that together. Now you got a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, whatever, or maybe you have a tiny house. It doesn't matter. But like, whatever it is, those purposes, they either align or they're intertwined. But they're not like, I'm over here in New Zealand and you over here in Gainesville and we just can't. No, that's not how he works. So that's why I think it's so important to find your purpose. Ask God to
Yes.
show you
Yes.
that. And I think that happens in the journey of doing the things that he calls you to do. I didn't know what I like, for real. The people who knew me when I was younger, I was like so shy. Speaking in public and all that stuff, I only did it because my parents made me do it, because we were part of the church and all that. But it was a training ground for where he would want to take me. But of all of my siblings, I am the last one what anyone would think would be the one speaking out like this. You know what I'm saying? And so when he leads you to the thing, now you start to grow, and the person, if God has someone for you, that person is somewhere growing too, and those paths intertwine at some point, because you're walking in your purpose, not because you over here in your couch being like, how come I ain't married? Why is this? That why how she ain't even, and I've done all that, you all know. So that's the thing.
Same.
So,
Oh my goodness.
else you want to share with us, Jennifer, as we start to wrap up?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things, just a couple of things that, kind of stick with me when we think about personal investment. There's a way to, somebody might be thinking, well, how do I start? how do,
Yeah,
how do I, because there's a lot, we got jobs, we got families, we raising kids. I mean, it's everything. Where? How can I get in this 5 minutes? It's 10 minutes, but it's really, taking some time to stop, to slow down, so that you can hear your own thoughts, so that you can hear what the Holy Spirit is saying to you. And I would say, get ready to invest in your design. I'm gonna come back to that. What do you mean? What you were created to contribute, your gifts, what you were prepackaged with. There's a book by Max Lucado. It was great. It's called The Cure for the Common Life. And this
Mm.
is for everybody. This is for singles, for married people, The Cure for the Common Life. And it's all about narrowing, getting down to what is it that God has put into me? How do I do it? And who receives the benefit of this? Just figuring out my uniqueness, right? Investing in your unique design. And it's referred to as your sweet spot. Figure out what your sweet spot is. Like on a bat, it's that little that's you know, that
Mhm.
mythical sweet spot that the ball hit and it'll go in a certain direction.
Mhm.
It's the intersection of what you do, why you do it, and where you do it. Okay. I'm gonna come back to that one real quick, but also investing your time. What do you mean? Take time to dream, y'all. Take time to dream. Some of us, we've forgotten how to dream because life has taken over. What is that one thing that you always wanted to do? You know, what would it look like for me to, it could be a hobby,
Mhm.
it could be a trip, it could be writing a book, starting a business, starting a YouTube channel, whatever that is. What is that thing that you dream about doing? And what are some real steps that you could take toward making that happen? How could you plan for it? And then just do it. Then
Mhm.
just do it. And then I think about the self-care part, definitely. What relaxes you? So these are some things that you can do in that space where you stop and think and listen. What relaxes you? What
Mhm.
makes you feel at peace? What gives you comfort? And those are the things. Make a list. Start jotting down. I'm telling y'all, when you slow down, you start hearing all kinds of things
Mhm. Mhm.
that needed to be heard. One more thing is, as it relates to how do I invest in my unique design, there are just a ton of online quizzes you can take to discover your passion. Because sometimes we get so involved in life, we lose touch. We
Mhm.
lose sight of that. So there are little instruments out there to help bring us back and help that will bring that to the surface. Discover what your
Mhm.
passion is. Take a spiritual gifts test,
Mhm.
right? And take a personality. As adults, when we go through different seasons, there may be some shifts in our temperament and our personality. Find out, in other words, y'all, get back in touch with you.
Mhm.
Get back in touch with you. And that's kind of where you can kind of start. But ask yourself those questions, jot down what you're hearing, and then go from there. Go from
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Uh, I love all of that. I love all that. Jennifer, I want you to talk a little bit about your devotional book because I think it's relevant here. She didn't mention that. She dropped it like in the middle, but she didn't mention it when she was actually introducing herself. And I want you to share a little bit about that because you're talking about transition. You're talking about change and making that. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So it's a 31-day, very short reads. It's not a how-to. It's not an algorithm. It's a because when we look at growth and change, it's from the inside out. That's sustainable change is what
Mhm.
I'm talking about. I was impressed to write on change as I was experiencing growth and change in my own life. So I was telling Lorraine when we were talking before that I don't ever like to talk about what I am not either currently going through or maybe just came out of, because it's all personal. It's all
Mhm.
personal and it's
Mhm.
very, very relevant to me. And so I was going through my own process of seasons to growth, inside growth. And so it motivated me to want to understand more about how we make changes, sustainable changes. I'm not talking about you have two types of changes. You've got technical change and you've got adaptive change, right? Technical change is, oh, the, the screen is broken on the window. Let me put some plastic on there temporarily so, nothing gets in here,
Mm-hmm.
right? Adaptive change is change that takes place at the mindset level, at the mentality level. That's where you're interrupting what we've always done and we're shifting to something new. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was super um just wanting to know more about how that happens because it was happening with me at the time. I was working in young adult ministry leadership at my church. I could see things happening with our young adults. Like we were discipling each other. And it was so crazy because it was just like, this person started over here and now they're over here. How the heck did they get there? And so it was, spiritual formation became really fascinating to me. And so that's where the Holy Spirit impressed me. I want you to take some of the things that you've heard. I want you to put this, in a manuscript so that other people can, walk,
Mm-hmm.
this journey. And so it's based on um 5 principles of change from the psychological perspective. How we are introduced to change, how we how we react or what our response is to it, those first few steps, really getting into it, and then sustaining change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I use like examples from my own life. I put myself out there, talked about different experiences to kind of bring it to life, but I also marry that to the fact that this is uh, this is an environment. This environment of change is possible because first you are valuable to God
Mm-hmm.
because He chose you, and we on some level have gotten away from that, and so you know we can get back to the original intent. And so it was a journey for me to write that. It was a joy for me to write that. And I find myself even still going through, new seasons of change and just grateful for that little book. And yeah. Yeah.
Tell me the name of that again. I read it, but I just
Oh,
that I
um, yeah, it's hashtag something new. The art of making changes, life changes that last. The art of making life changes that last. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's on Amazon. Shameless plug.
Don't be ashamed.
Yeah.
The
Shameless
art of
plug.
making changes that last.
The art of making life changes that last. Hashtag something new. So you can put my name. I mean, it may be a little bit difficult to search, but who wants to type in that whole title? So a lot of times when I want to find it myself, I just put my name in there. And
She wants to find it.
I also have, since we're talking about it, if you put my name into Amazon, I also created a self-care journal. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, the time frame is like for a month, but it gives an opportunity to stop, to write, to reflect. And there's a self-care tip, daily self-care tip. It's a little cute little book, but
Nice.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. As we always do, we like to bring some scripture into our
Yeah.
and so Second Peter chapter 1, verse 4-8. I'm reading verse 4 just for a little bit of context, but I would suggest reading this whole chapter. It's really good. Whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. And besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and to virtue knowledge, and to knowledge temperance, and to temperance patience, and to patience godliness. and to godliness, brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness, charity. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that ye shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. And the reason that I picked that is because it's really talking about growth. That's really what that scripture is talking about. So that not growth for the sake of growth, but growth for the sake of fruitfulness.
Yes.
And so as Christians, we are to be fruitful in our life, in whatever state, in whatever situation we find ourselves. We are to be fruitful, because that is our purpose here, to represent Christ and to have a joyful life.
Yeah.
When you feel barren, I mean, when a woman wants to have a child and she's barren, that's a very painful and difficult thing. We've read several stories in the Bible that show us that. And when you're trying to do something and it's not coming to fruition, there is no fruit showing from that. That can be very depressing and lonely and challenging. But when we focus on not the outcome, but the growth,
That part.
it says, it doesn't say focus on not being barren and being fruitful. It says grow, add this to this, add this to this. And as we focus on that, then the fruitfulness is inevitable. And so as we, Jennifer and I talked about that, taking time for yourself and learning. If you haven't done this, learn yourself, learn your purpose, figure out, start doing things. Just everything doesn't have to be so deep though. Like
Right.
this is important, but you can just do stuff to have fun too. Like, you know, if you like to go in nature, do that. If you like to canoe, go do that. If you like to play, like whatever things are fun, or if you think they might be fun, try them. So I think it's a holistic. And so this scripture is just talking about grow. Don't just stay here. It's like, oh, I have faith. No, well, now I need you to add virtue. I need you to add knowledge. I need you to add temperance. And like, and because you're stacking, you're building all of these things, now your foundation is firm. But then also that fruitfulness is a natural outgrowth of that versus something that we're trying to make happen.
Yes.
And I think that individually that's important, but I think I'll just throw this in there as we kind of close, because I like, even as a church organization, if we focused on this versus focusing on whatever outcomes we've decided are now important, we wouldn't have to worry about, are the seats filled? Because the seats will be filled. It would be a natural outcome. It will be fruitfulness will be natural, because your roots are so deep. It's deep and it's in the right thing. And so, but the reality is that only happens if we do it individually. Like the church is just a structure of individuals.
That's right.
It's like a marriage. If one person, if neither party, I'm getting on back into this, we got to go. But I'm like, if neither party is trying to grow, then the relationship isn't going to grow. But if I'm trying to grow over here and you're trying to grow over here, now the beauty of our relationship is a natural outgrowth of that growth, individual. So that to me is the same as the church. That if we as individuals start to change our perspective, then what happens in the organizations, not just work, I mean, not just church, but in our work, in our family, in our whatever organization that we're part of, there's going to be some fruit.
That's right.
So,
amen.
We want you all not to just hear. We appreciate all the comments. We thank you those who were watching, but we want you to do. Jennifer gave us some great steps of how to start the process if you haven't been in it. And if you have, keep going. Take the time. because there will be fruit that comes that is joy and peace and love and happiness and witness and connection and all of these things that God has for us as we take this journey together. So until next time, thank you, Dr. J. Jennifer, this has been as fantastic or more fantastic than I even thought it was going to be, because it's just like one of our regular conversations.
Yes. Yes.
People
I
want to
enjoyed this so much. Thank you for having me.
We'll have to get you back on here next
Yes.
next season.
Yes. Yes.
But for all of you, thank you for watching. And until next time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless.